is Kara Delgado, Houston area Vistage Chair. I'm excited to have this conversation with Amy Kay. She is going to talk with us about difficult, challenging, crucial conversations. Welcome, Amy. Good to see
Oh,
you.
thanks so much, Kara. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, and I'm excited.
Me too. It'll be great because nobody that I know is having a difficult conversation right now.
Well, I'm so excited about this because I have some CEOs in my group, leaders in my group, that my Vistage group, that are really struggling at times to have timely conversations and tend to put it off, with their managers just because it's, you know, easier not to. It's a little uncomfortable. They certainly want people to be happy, and it's just always a little, there's some trepidation around it, and so naturally it gets put off and procrastinated, right? So
So understandable. Yeah, your members are not alone. That's the first thing I'll say. So here's what we know from the data and the research. They are like every other leader out there who's not excited about having a tough conversation. So on average, this is amazing but true. On average, we avoid that tough conversation from 6 months to 2 years. So if you think about that, like all the angst, all the stress, the cost of not having that conversation emotionally, all that time that goes by without improved behaviors or relief in yourself or them. And then if you think about it as well, we also know that on average, the cost of a tough conversation is about $7,500 to $10,000, the cost of not having it. So then you think
wow.
about, okay, well, that's on average. There's some that are way more expensive. And now we could be delaying it for 2 years. And here's what we also know. It's really understandable because most of us are afraid to have that conversation because we're afraid things are going to get worse.
Right, right. I know I was certainly guilty of that at times when I was running my company. I mean, yeah, who's not, right? So, well, that's very interesting to monetize it. And then just the emotional toll, I think. How much space is this taking up in my brain? That energy could be focused on something much more productive. So I think that's really helpful to look at it from that perspective. So
Yeah, and to take into consideration the what I call the energetic escrow. So if you think about how energy depleting that is, how mood altering it is, whether you're frustrated, you're stressed, you're angry, and then the unintended consequences that happen from that. Because usually it starts off, and here's the classic psychology. Let's just say I've annoyed you, right? I've done something, and you're like, okay, that wasn't cool. But in your mind, you're like, but I like Amy Kay. That's not a big deal. But then I do it again. And you're like, well, it's only twice. And then I do it a third time. And now it's maybe 6 months. And you're thinking, why didn't I talk to her about this in the beginning? And so that's why it's so important for all of us as leaders to say, okay, look, I need to have this conversation sooner is always better. Timing is important, though. There are not good times to do it, right? So we want to make sure that we're ready, we're prepared, we're not winging it, that person is in a place where they're not fried and exhausted and can actually be a better receptor. But then we have to walk through it. And we really need to set ourselves and the person that we're going to have this conversation with up for success. So I was saying just the other day, when you think about a tough conversation, Kara, I want you to walk away feeling stronger. I want to walk away feeling stronger. And I want our relationship to be stronger and more connected. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to have this tough conversation and I'm going to ream this person out, let's back up and have a more constructive dialogue first. Doesn't mean you can't have tough love down the road. But for you to go in and just be like, I should have had this conversation 6 months ago and now I've lost it, which I think some people can identify with, not helpful.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing you say is it's about creating positive momentum versus what you just said, which is going to create some momentum, but not in the way that we want, right? Very negative momentum.
You're absolutely correct. It's about communicating to connect. So we've all been there. We've all reacted, right? This is human. But for us as a leader to consciously say, okay, I got to have a tough conversation with Amy Kay. I want to prepare for it so that it goes well, so that I don't leave Amy Kay feeling worse, but I leave her fired up and worthy and significant to play better. And so one of the things that I think that's really important for leaders is to say, set your intention, And then what do you want the outcome to be? Let's give you some back pocket brilliant one-liners. I don't believe in scripting. Been doing sales training for 25 years. I don't believe in scripting, but I do believe in these beautiful one-liners that can put guardrails around something. So sure. I also think that empathy is a little bit of a buzzword right now. And where I like to kind of bring it home for a reality check is those leaders who use empathic intelligence to their advantage show up super perceptive, very sensitive to the dynamic to say, I'm going to listen, respect, and honor you so that you feel more seen, heard, and understood so that we can actually change your behaviors for the long term.
Right.
And that takes prep. And empathy to me means a little bit of vulnerability. So again, if we were role playing, I would encourage you. So let's say, Kara, you've got a direct report that you need to have a conversation with. I would say, okay, Kara, what can you say to that person that humanizes? So you might say, hey, we're going to have a little bit of an awkward conversation that maybe we should have had 6 months ago. And I own that. I've been a little scared because I haven't wanted to hurt your feelings, or I haven't really known what to say. But now we need to sit down and talk about it because this really matters to us, or this relationship matters to us, or this project matters to both of us. So I'm being a little bit vulnerable, and I'm also saying that it's really important. And that helps a lot for getting the conversation started right.
Well, so Amy, I actually have an example that one of my members brought up in a one-to-one, and he's had a good year, had some growth. It seems like they're struggling with hitting some deadlines in terms of service or product delivery, and he's seen one of his managers leave a little bit early, or sometimes even on time when he really wants to see them push for these deadlines, even if they have to stay late, because he's pretty flexible on allowing them to sort of come and go to their kids' functions and things under normal circumstances. So with that example, what any suggestions on how just listening to you, I can certainly see how we could set that up in an empathic way, but let's just unpack that with me for a second.
Yeah, happy to. So there's several really critical conversations that need to go on. One is the obvious. How is the leader going to go talk to this individual? But then how is the leader talking to himself? So let's have the tough conversation with me, myself, and I first. So tough conversation with me, myself, and I first is so that I completely believe this. When I learn to lead myself well, then I lead others well. So I have to ask myself, am I really clear on defining excellent expectations? Am I really clear on making my deliverables well known? Are we agreed on what excellent performance looks like? Are we aligned, this individual and I, are we aligned on the fact that we've got to meet these deadlines? There's a sense of urgency. We're both committed to it. Maybe that's the conversation that I need to have. Maybe I want to talk about, are we committed to the outcome and doing what it takes because we've accepted the assignment and care for this outcome and all the people that it impacts? But here's what most of us will do. We will assume that this person leaving early means that they don't care. And then we're like, how can they not care? Like we're behind on this project and blah, 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 blah. And so what we do is we lead with one, perhaps a false assumption, an emotional narrative, and we're not setting ourselves up to go and get better performance out of that person. What we're doing is we're having them be defensive. And again, only because we can all relate to this scenario, right? Where we've messed up these conversations. So here's what I'd love for this leader to do for him or herself first. How do I communicate more clearly with this individual to ensure that I'm showing them that I trust them to accept the care and management of this assignment? What do I need to say in this conversation that lets them know that delivering excellence is really important to me in this scenario? I also understand that we respect each other in choosing our priorities and integrating our lives. And are we committed to this outcome? So then when I go speak to this individual, I can share with them in the whole course of the conversation, not right up front, but in the course of the conversation, I can use what I call a magical phrase. And I'm the queen of magical phrases, mainly because I wish I'd had them earlier in my life, but I'm the queen of them. Suppose you're the one, Kara, that's leaving at 4:00 to go to your kid's game. I might say to you, hey, Kara, I have this story in my head that you and we totally get that family is important. And I believe that, and Now I have a story in my head that you're leaving early is either a lack of commitment to what we've agreed that we need to deliver, or I'm just assuming it's a lack of commitment and I'm not seeing all the other things behind the scene that are going on. So tell me where there's truth in my story. Now, notice what I've done. I haven't made that person feel defensive and attacked. I've said, I've got this story and I want you to edit this story. Another way to role play this, if that's not in your comfort zone, would be to go to them and say, hey, I want to have a really vulnerable conversation with you. I am sensing in my own choice, I'm sensing a lack of commitment from you. That may or may not be true, but that's my story. And my story is when you're leaving at 4 o'clock and we're on this pressure deadline, I'm assuming it as maybe you don't care. And yet I know that you do care. So tell me what's going on so that I can feel good about the fact that we're both committed to this outcome. And what I'm doing is I'm allowing them to comment on, oh, no. You didn't see me this morning at 6 a.m. sending out the emails, and maybe I didn't. But what you're doing is you're saying, I want to make sure we're aligned on the commitment to this outcome. And that is probably because we're brainstorming and we're riffing where I might have started 5 minutes ago is I want to have a conversation with you to assure that we're aligned around our commitment to this outcome. Yeah. That's the conversation that I want to have.
Right. That's excellent. What I like about that is it does open up a conversation. It's not one-sided coming from the boss, right? And so it invites that other party to other person, an employee to, to engage and be open about, the conversation. So excellent. I love that. So Amy,
go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask about, I know you've been a Vistage speaker, and you have how many years of in Vistage as a member? How many years?
So 8 years as a member and 22 going on 23 years as a speaker.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, so tell me about that experience.
Maybe if you have 5 hours, because it was amazing. Now, I joke. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Amy K, you bleed teal," which is the Vistage logo. But I love it for a myriad of reasons. One, as a member, I'm a huge fan, and you'll know this sincerely because I'm also a speaker. I think the speakers are a wonderful value add, full stop, wonderful value add. And to me, as a member, the very best part of the Vistage experience is that collective board of intelligence of all the minds sitting around the table, including the chair. And so to me, issue processing, where we all come together, somebody's in the hot seat, and you get this myriad of perspectives. You get everybody's experiences and their input and their expertise to help you play better. That's priceless. And so for me, that was the phenomenal. It was the reason why I showed up month after month after month, because I was like, oh my gosh, the intelligence, the passion, the kindness, the support in this room, worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. So I've also heard that called the help seat. Which I like that a little bit better. But no, it really kind of comes back to that old adage of 2 heads are better than 1. Well, 12 or 15 are way better than 2. And, I just think my journey and my experience as a leader and a solopreneur, if you will, I had to kind of get some other ideas and additional outside perspective because, you don't know what you don't know. And
oh my God, you just took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. And that's what I love, because then it's that old Socratic methodology that's been around for forever. It's the, what am I missing? Yeah. And so when you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna buy, or I'm gonna sell my business, or I'm gonna hire, or I'm gonna attract, or I'm gonna merge, or how do you scale? And somebody's like, well, I'll tell you what you don't do. And then somebody else is like, and this really worked for us. And have you thought about? And then you're like, oh my goodness, this was just a gift from everybody helping me to make smarter, or what I joke about, the bigger, better, bolder decisions.
I'll give you a quick example of the power of your peers, really helping each other learn about things they don't know. The ERC, the employee retention credit. Yeah. I have some members who didn't know about it. And so they learned about it through their peers. And, if they're eligible, which seems to me they are based on my understanding of it, that's definitely going to cover the cost of their Vistage membership. But had they not surrounded themselves with other leaders, they may not have learned about it, right? So, you know, that's a simple example, but you know, just the idea exchange and helping, you know, push back, challenging people's assumptions and really just kind of getting them out of their silos, you know, is for me, it's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. You know?
Well, your legacy expands for being their chair. They're lucky to have you, and I say that wholeheartedly.
Well, thank you. I'm enjoying it. It's putting me out of my comfort zone and challenging me to grow and sort of, which is what we're asking of them when they.
I was just gonna say, you're practicing what you preach, which is good.
Yeah.
That's the kind of role model you want to be.
Yeah, I'm having fun, learning lots, and really enjoying the journey, and you know, looking forward to 2023.
Good, nice.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I love your energy, and you know, hopefully we'll be seeing and talking soon.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a true pleasure.
Okay, thanks, Amy.